we are. We're still at the Future Print Virtual Summit on day one, which means we are still talking about celebrating learning from young guns in print. And we have another excellent panel in this session. I've called this session The Many Paths to Print, and I think it just, the idea is it's so vast, so diverse, with so many opportunities, but also, many challenges, especially when it comes to attracting and retaining talented young people and getting them excited about what is a fast-paced and evolving industry, which, isn't always people's perception of the print industry when you're outside it. So first of all, let's meet the panel. We have Isabella Ivanovici, who is a recruitment specialist at INV Recruitment and a co-founder of the great initiative Women in Sign and Graphics.
Hello.
Hi, and we have Genevieve Lewis, is editor of SignLink and Print Monthly, trade publications. Hi, Jen.
Hello.
Jonathan Malone-McGrew, Senior Director of Engagement at Solimar Systems. Hi, Jonathan.
Hello.
And Tom Owers, who is Product Manager at Epson UK. Hi, Tom.
Hiya.
I as I said before, this is a lot of it is drawing on kind of personal experience. There's so many different stories and journeys of people's kind of avenues into the industry. And I would love to hear all of yours, first of all, before we kind of kick things off with some discussions on how we can help young people in the industry. Jonathan, if you don't mind, I'll go to you first. If you could kind of regale us with your backstory and your journey into the print industry.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I tried to run away kicking and screaming, actually. Ironically, my mom, Pat McGrew, started in the industry because journalism wasn't lucrative enough back when I was little in the 80s. And I grew up in a family that started a software company in print, not unlike the one I work for today, which is ironic, with Solimar being almost 30 years old. So I tried to do marketing and advertising, and somehow the rope of print just kind of, pulled me back in. And I can tell you that it's probably been the most rewarding thing, because growing up around the transactional print industry, there's a lot of things that I know that a lot of people in their, mid-30s don't know. And so it's become a career, it's become a career where you build expertise and you just keep adding to it every day. So, I mean, mine is really a history, family history, family lineage that I work with my mom every day, whether, it's on the same project or different. And then I work with great people like Marianne, who is one of the owners and our chief experience officer at Solimar. So it's crazy how I fell into it. I feel like a lot of people in the technical side of transactional and software for printing kind of fall into it like I do, and then find a love.
Yeah. Fantastic. And it's, one of the other panels that we have had on today is Falling into Print, that kind of looks at, how people fall into it and, how we can make it a bit more of a situation where people are kind of deliberately pursuing that career rather than kind of falling in and then thinking, oh, wow, this is great, and kind of pursuing their career. So, and it's such a common story, and it's funny to hear you say that when you, it's really like, you almost had no choices, with Pat, who's, an amazing figure in the industry. So thank you for sharing that. And Izzy, maybe we could hear from you about your background and journey into the print industry and how you came to be kind of where you are today.
Just like he's just said, for me it was a very random journey as well. When I first started into this industry, I didn't even know there was this industry, if I'm being completely honest. For me, it was, I was looking to get into recruitment at the time, and it just so happened that I applied for a role with a recruitment agency in the area who had a print and packaging department. And yeah, I just happened to get the job and work on the print and packaging team. And from here, I went on to working into breaking away from recruitment for a while and working into sales, selling software, and I was still selling, again, it was still selling within the signage and graphics industry. And, 6 years on, I feel that I've met a lot of people, and, I felt like I haven't been able to leave the industry, not that I wanted to, because I do really enjoy working within the industry. And it's brought me to now having, my own startup agency, to say so, well, business, recruiting still for the industry. And a year ago, I also co-founded the Women in Science and Graphics group. So it was a very unexpected way to get into this industry. I didn't know it existed, but once I started doing it, I'm really enjoying it. I think the people are great, and I really enjoy working with people in the industry.
Yeah, and it's that's such a familiar story as well. You don't know about it. You think, you just don't know, the scope of the opportunities out there and how vast it is, until you're kind of, in it, and you think, wow, there's so much here. So, and Tom, I think you kind of have a similar story in terms of, you were working in other areas and kind of came into the industry and sort of have stuck around as well. Maybe you could tell us a bit about your backstory.
Yeah, very similar. So I graduated in 2007 with a degree in illustration, so a creative degree. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. Decided to get some office experience, and I started working for a company in like a sales admin role. About 2007, 2008, recession happened. And then I temped for the next 2 years, just really random jobs, and eventually found my way to a company that manufactured third-party components to remanufacture toner cartridges. So that, weirdly, was my introduction into the print industry. Again, no idea it existed. Print at all, let alone third-party. Yeah, completely new to me. So I progressed there into sales, and after about a year, I started working for Colourgen. We're a value-added distributor for Epson and Muto, large format specialists. Stayed there for about 4 years, left the industry very briefly and attempted to work in networking, selling routers. That didn't go well. I instantly missed print. So I started at Epson about nearly 4 years ago now. So it was quite organic and really unexpected. I didn't know much about the industry at all, that it even existed.
Fantastic. And I think there's a pattern emerging, definitely, which I've seen in other panels as well. And Jen, a little bit about kind of your background. It's a different side of things. You're a journalist for trade publications in the industry. Tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are.
Well, funnily enough, I did always want to be a print journalist or working with print in some way, because my nan used to buy me these little block pads and they looked like books. So I used to do the front cover and I used to write my own stories inside, and I'd be like, oh, cool, it's like glued together like a book. Obviously I was 6 and I didn't realize what I meant was binding. I was just like, look at this. And then obviously as I grew up, that's when I kind of went away from being an author or writing books, and I wanted to be a journalist. So I combined that with my other passion of sport. And yeah, I didn't really fall into print because I guess I went the most straightforward route. I went to university, I got a sport journalism degree, and then I started applying to work for print publications. So working at Print Monthly and Signlink is my first job since I graduated a few years ago now. But obviously, like everyone else, I knew that print existed. I mean, I wanted to work for a newspaper or a magazine, but I didn't know how that was printed or how it was bound or how it was put together by graphic designers. So it really does kind of open up this whole world of but then you go into a shop and you start seeing everything and be like, that's printed, that's got print on it. So I wish I could turn that bit off, but because other people are like, what are you talking about? Why are you like labels? But
I get that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, obviously I always wanted to be in print, but not specifically the print industry, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and that's another big thing, isn't it? That, you know, when you think back to your childhood, it's just a testament to the, you know, how emotional it is as a medium, you know, holding books and magazines and you know, sensory experiences. So yeah, and I was the same, you know, I wanted to be a writer, I wanted to be a journalist, and, you know, you have memories of reading all the time, flipping through magazines, you know, and it does stay with you. And it's one of the things I love about it. And now I do that too with, you know, everything. Looking at everything. Once you know about it, you see it, you know, it is the curse of being in this industry.
I feel the same way. It's like you can't get away from, oh, look, that tile in the home improvement store is printed. And
yeah,
because I wanted to be like the ad man person, you know, like, I don't know if that show translates across the world, but there was a show based on ad people in New York. And I only watched a couple of it, but I wanted that's what I wanted to work in San Francisco originally when I was in school, you know, be a big ad agency person. Yeah. Then I discovered after working for an agency, I didn't like the life. So I came back to print.
Yeah. We always come back.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for sharing those journeys, you know, really different stories, but with, you know, common threads, which I've seen with talking to other people on the panels here. And it's really, really interesting. And I think if we move on to talk a little bit about the avenues that are out there, you know, today, it's, as we've said, it's so vast. There's certain areas of it where you'd need to, you know, have studied chemistry or engineering, or there's, you know, areas where you need to be creative or you need to be, you know, scientific. It's so broad in that way. So it's almost hard to have this, you know, broad conversation on it. But you know, there are opportunities such as university degrees, there's vocational training, apprenticeships, or just kind of learning on the job, you know. And I think, how widely are these available? Where are we with terms of levels of awareness that these are out there, in terms of interest in these areas? I think if we start with you, Izzy, I know that, you know, Women in Sign and Graphics, which you co-founded. I know you work with the printing charity, and I know a particular focus is on helping young people. Maybe you could talk a bit about that.
Yeah. Well, I could also say that, you know, I've worked in recruitment for over 6 years now. And obviously I speak with, you know, a lot of people every single day, both clients and candidates. What I notice with a lot of these candidates is that, you know, a low percentage of these people who work in the industry have relevant training within the industry, or and just most of them have been, you know, trained on the job, and most of them, like me and like many others, have managed to kind of fall into this industry. But, you know, there are a lot of, you know, degrees available out there. There's undergrad, postgrad degrees, apprenticeships, NVQs. What I don't think is done enough by the government to incentivize people to join the industry. But like you said, I've done work with the print charity. There's other organizations out there like Learn to Print, Inspirational Learning Group. These organizations, they offer grants and they encourage people to join the industry. But, you know, I think there needs to be maybe more collaboration between schools, universities and the industry. So getting the industry promoted more to young people, because like myself and many others, not many will know that it's such a huge industry out there, and so many won't know that. And we just need to, you know, let people know that there is, and like you said, there's so many areas out there where they can get involved. There's creative production, account management, leadership positions. You can work for a small startup, you can work for an international business. So yeah, I think just more collaboration between schools and the industry, really, and the government, of course.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think the industry agrees. We've just had the FM Future survey, you know, some feedback from that on COVID-19 and the future of print. And, you know, a couple of the questions were centered around young people, because we're having this content program today. And out in front, when we kind of presented a list of ways that the industry could be doing more, collaboration with schools and universities was the top choice of what we can do. And I think that's such an amazing way, so much more to be done, you know, going in there. And I don't know if that's something that is done more in the US. It's certainly something I know about going on in the US, but don't know so much about here, but that could just be, you know, personal, knowledge. Jonathan, a little bit about your thoughts on that issue, and also kind of other help that is out there in terms of training and, you know, raising awareness of these opportunities and avenues into print.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's changed a lot over the years in the U.S. The U.S. is so big that it really, so I grew up in Texas, and I wouldn't say that there was a lot of opportunity to go to school for, you know, print. I went to college in Colorado. Again, I wouldn't say the Midwest is really strong on that unless you get to Chicago or you get to the coast like Cal Poly and, the RIT in New York. And so it really is an interesting industry in that the government here doesn't really push print either, in my opinion. You don't hear about people talking about it, but it touches so much. I guess growing up around a company that touched so many bills and statements, and my mom's company, like Solimar, worked with security stuff like social security numbers and things like that. You start to realize that print can be so many things. And then you look at like packaging, right? And you look at labels, and magazines, which we all touch. I think the challenge is that a lot of young people, including myself, were told the whole time I was growing up that print was going to die. And we pick on my mom a little bit because she wrote a white paper back in the late 90s that said that print was going to massively decline. And she jokes about it now. She's like, well, I missed that one. I missed that didn't happen. And I think that that's the problem. I think if you talk to young people, we're all about the iPads and, I mean, real young people, like 10 years old, 12 years old. They're kind of believing that print doesn't have a future. But I think print is just evolving. And I think there'll always be a need for it because it's so engaging, right? So, in the U.S., I think the problem is that, and around the world, I think, we need advocates like this, forums like this. I think Future Print is so amazing because we're starting to see the talk track picked up again as trade shows are starting to change and evolve themselves, with COVID-19. But I think that was just a catalyst. I think we've been seeing a lot of change for a long time. So I hope it continues. I mean, I love hearing that, Izzy started this, women in print kind of, group. That's so amazing because that's so important. Getting more than just one type of person in the industry too is so important to get the creativity. So I am a little sad that a lot of the scholarship programs we saw have kind of gone away in print due to hardship, right? Economic hardship. So Tom mentioned earlier the recession, and that was really hard on a lot of educational bodies. And I think this period will be as well. So I hope people hear these messages in virtual conferences and start to think about what they could do outside of what's just in the classified ads in their local township.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is a problem. Things are, there are less opportunities for scholarships, certainly. And you need to get creative with what we're doing to kind of get people into it. And it's not impossible, but, the work needs to be done, certainly. And if I go to you, Jen, I know you were talking before about volunteering or working with the printing charity, and you must cover, initiatives and young people in the industry in your capacity as a trade journalist. So maybe you can give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said, probably the route into being a print journalist probably has more avenues because you can go to university, and almost every university will offer a journalism degree, and that will cover print. But even then, it doesn't just cover print. You do radio and you do television because they know that print journalism is unfortunate. It's not going down fast, but it has been declining, and it will continue to decline, unfortunately, because everyone reads the news on their phones, like you said about the iPads and things, for kids as well. But I think there needs to be more knowledge, because when I was volunteering with the printing charity, we had one candidate who had done a journalism degree but didn't know that the degree wasn't accredited by the BCTJ or the NCTJ, which is the National Council and the British Council for Training of Journalists. So effectively, she then had to go and fund the NCTJ and the BCTJ accreditations, because without them, you unfortunately won't get very far. So in that sense, I think there even needs to be more information given to people that want to be print journalists, because even if you go and do a journalism degree, because it's so competitive, without extra little bits like work experience, with my degree, we had to do a specific number of days to be able to get a grade. So I went and did work experience at a car magazine, and I went and did work experience at my local newspaper in Yeovil back home. So I think there needs to be more information available, because even you think, I'll go to uni and I'll get a job at the end of it. It really, and even after COVID, that's going to be even harder. So I just think there needs to be more information available, and perhaps more things like in this country, for example, we have things like graduate schemes. I'm pretty sure they probably have those in America too, but where perhaps someone that's at university, if they were studying, say, electrical engineering or product design, they could do a year in industry with someone like Epson, for example, and then they could come back once they've graduated, and then they've got a degree at the same time, but they've also got an affiliate with a company, and they can become part of that graduate scheme. So maybe that's something that you could look into, like the bigger companies. I know obviously smaller companies might not be able to take on a full-on graduate, but having that year in industry or a 3-month placement that could lead to a graduate job, maybe that's a way forward.
Absolutely. I'd love to see more of that. I personally don't know how widespread that is. If we're doing it, congratulations. I think that's a fantastic thing to be doing.
And Karis, I would just add on to that point, don't be afraid to contact a company you're interested in. I mean, as young people, I think I've seen a lot more tenacity, with the virtual world. So don't be afraid to reach out. I mean, what's the worst they can say is no. I mean, so if you came to Solimar and you said, could I be an intern and learn what workflow software is? I mean, I know Marianne would at least look at it. I mean, we may or may not have, as Jen said, a place, but we might know a company that does.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That proactive, proactive action is. I would encourage that as well. I think print is it's a real community on a global level. I think people are always kind of willing to help out. So please, do that and get more information and talk to some people. Talk to all of us. I'm sure we're all offering ourselves up right now to have people get in touch and ask any questions. But Tom, I think just kind of your thoughts, from your personal experience, a degree, and then, the recession hits, it's difficult. And like Jen said, and we will touch on this again later in the panel, COVID might be a similar situation. It's going to be very difficult for those at the start of their careers. Their prospects will be hit hard. What are your kind of thoughts on support for those young people in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky at the moment. It's absolute chaos, isn't it? I mean, with university, I don't think it's necessary by any means. I benefited massively personally by going, general life skills, organisation, communication, but the cost of it now, I wouldn't advise going just for that. But my degree was creative, and I came out of there with a knowledge of traditional print processes, like screen printing. I had a knowledge of fine art, photography. I knew about design software, colour management to an extent. So when I did find my way into the large format and the print environment and industry, I had a really sound grounding, and because of that, I instantly took to it. So I would say those creative degrees, out of 30 people on my course in illustration, probably 5 of them have made it as an illustrator, but we had no idea that this industry existed. So educating and influencing at school, college and degree level, I think is essential.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, and I would say as well, that university side of thing, it is fantastic that you already had that experience. But that's also something you can gain from just trying a bit of everything in terms of if you are doing temp jobs, don't be afraid to try something a bit out of your comfort zone, and that might give you that kind of knowledge where you're looking for a job. And say you worked in somewhere that was adjacent to the print industry in a temp job for a few months, and then later down the line you think, oh wow, actually I remember doing XYZ when I was temping there. Or and that's another kind of reason for schools to get involved and for companies to get involved with going into schools. You might spark something, even if it's down the line, that you actually get into it.
Imagine, it was being at a primary school and seeing one of your drawings come off a 64-inch wide printer. It'd blow your mind. The technology is incredible. So it's just setting that spark early on. I think that's crucial. How we go about doing that, that's the question.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a bit about that then. In terms of sparking people's interest, it's not just trying to explain to somebody what the print industry is and how great it is, and it is fast paced, it's evolving, it is really exciting, and I think we all know that because we've been working in the industry for some time. But still, my friends and other people are kind of say, oh, what do you do again? What is it again that you're printing? And it's, you can't impart that all the time. You have to kind of experience it. So how do we get, there's people that come out of education, they think, I want to work for Apple, they want to work for the tech giants because they're, it's cool, it seems exciting. So what are their interests that we can capitalize on? I know that, Jonathan, we talked before, and it was such a good point and so true. There's so much opportunity for travel. Say that's something that interests you. I worked actually at the same publications that Jen works at, and it was my first kind of week, and I got a ticket to go to Barcelona because there was an HP event, and I thought, wow, I don't know. I didn't know anything about the industry at that time, and then subsequently I've got to travel so much, and I still do, prior to the pandemic I was, and that's amazing. And there's, people I've spoken to who have worked on, I take you, for example, Jen, you're passionate about sports. If you're someone that goes and works for a print company and they're managing, a huge display in a stadium and the print and graphics in a stadium and working with a sports team, it's a huge, exciting project that you could be working on. There's ways of attracting people into an industry by actually thinking, what are you interested in? What are you passionate about? And relaying it to that. Maybe if we start with you, Jonathan, seeing as you're the one that sparked that idea and made by mentioning that, it's a great opportunity to as an example.
Yeah, so hopefully I'm not freezing up too much, but, I think everyone on Future Print knows we're virtual. So, I was in Japan this time last year, exactly. And I think that's the opportunity in many industries, but in print, we work with a lot of hardware and software manufacturers as a software provider ourselves. And I think what's so interesting about the print industry is we do it all over the world. So that gives the opportunity. If you want to travel, you can find those roles. When I was looking to make a leap 2 jobs ago now, I had to choose. Did I want a U.S. role, which was one offer on the table, or did I want a global role? And I don't know that if you don't realize that those are options, I don't know that you look for them. You know, some people are going to want to stay in their township, in their city, in their county, because they have family and they don't want to travel. And then other people, you know, want to get out and see the world. And just like Karis, I mean, I had that opportunity where all of a sudden I was in a role where they were like, "Can you go to London tomorrow?" Oh, well, that's new. Yes. Okay. I'll do that. And, you know, I had teams all over the world at one point in one job, and all that experience rolls up to things that you can use in life and in relationships. And I think the fun thing about the print industry is, you know, we're talking about print journalism. So we're talking about writing, which I do a lot of writing for our company. You know, we talk about creativity. You know, we've got a creative director at our company that helps make the brand look good and make our products look good. So you can do that. There's scientific stuff around engineering. So there's the people who actually make the software and the hardware work. And you could be a scientific engineer. Some of the smartest people I know are the people who design the printers. It blows my mind what you can do with ink and chemicals, and then, you know, what actually comes out in 3D printing. But just plain black and white and color printing, people don't understand the technology it takes to do it digitally. So I just think there's so much opportunity. And Karis, you said it, it's hard to even describe it. And I get excited about it because there's nothing like being at a product launch where someone has done something innovative that's never been done before. And it happens all the time in the print industry.
Yeah, absolutely. It really does. Once you kind of get out there and go to the trade shows and even during this virtual show, we're going to see some amazing innovations over the next few days. It really is incredible, and you know the cycles move quickly, and things are getting produced so quickly. It's moving so quickly, and you know you don't know where we're going to be in a few years. You know, it's such an exciting space, and I think there is ways of getting people excited about that. It might be, you know, appealing to people's individual interests. What are your thoughts on that, Jen?
Well, I think that you're right about people don't know about the opportunities or the excitement that print brings. I mean, I don't know about anyone else, or whether it's because I also obviously work with the print show, when you go to an event, there is such a buzz. You are like pretty much high for 3 days. Every time I fly home from an event, come home from an event, I'm so bummed out because I spent like 3 or 4 days around the best people, seeing some amazing technology, working really hard, and just, you know, seeing everything. It's so vibrant, being able to see the products that print can produce or seeing something brand new. It really does. It's so exciting. And I don't think when normal people think about print, they don't think about that excitement that it can bring. And it is really hard to explain to others why I'm so excited about a 3.2 meter wide machine that can, like, it's massive. But I don't think people realize how exciting it can be. And like you said about the travel as well, being a journalist, you have the added benefit of a lot of people are trying to impress you all the time. So you get to do like really niche things. I mean, I hate to keep name dropping Epson, but as much as I hate Manchester United with a passion, Epson phoned me up one day and was like, "We have a space free. Do you want to come play football at Old Trafford?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay then." So I would never, ever, ever have that opportunity if I wasn't at Print Monthly and SignLink. And so many people were jealous of me for doing that, by the way. But I just don't think people realise that where print gets into its place. Obviously, the reason I was at Old Trafford was because Epson had a sponsorship with Manchester United. Epson sponsor Mercedes in Formula One. People don't realise how far and wide that print is involved. And that opens up so many more opportunities for travel, to do little niche events, to go to trade shows. and like you said, Karis, it's such a community. You make friends with so many people that actually going to these trade shows, you do just meet up with loads of people that you know, and that contributes to that buzz. And I think the print industry, it's just such a buzz.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a shame we're not able to be at shows. I think, I'm the same after the event. I love them.
I miss them so much.
Yeah.
We were, FESPA was cancelled. That was one we were really excited to go to, obviously every year. And this, it would have been my first Drupa. So
Same.
yeah, so I don't, to other people it might sound a bit sad, but I was properly gutted that I had to wait to go to Drupa, because it's like the pinnacle of print, and it's every 4 years. It's like the Olympics, and I arrived just after the last Drupa happened, so I've waited a long time for this, and now it's gone.
I feel you.
Yeah.
I worked on my first Drupa 2008 for Infoprint, Ricoh Infoprint, after they bought IBM Print Systems. And I did the graphics for the side of the building. So I worked on it, never got to go. My mom's been to a ton of them. And I was supposed to go with Marianne and Solimar and be in our partners this year. And every one of our partners has pulled out already, pretty much, except for one, maybe. It's just, I feel your pain because I was so excited. I've been living with the Drupa song and Drupa t-shirts coming home to me for well over a decade, probably two.
Yeah, it was really, really upsetting. It would have been my second Drupa, actually, so I was excited to go back. But it is a real shame, and I love the events as well. It's a huge part of the industry, and if you haven't taken advantage of it, just for everyone watching, the Remo networking events that we're doing are really, really cool. You get to kind of sit. It's a bit different than Zoom. You get to kind of sit in and it feels almost like you're in the real world. Not quite, but it's a really interesting platform, and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, maybe if we go to Tom, there's ways of attracting people into the industry without it being based on the technology or the processes themselves, and trying to, open someone's eyes to an industry but without them knowing anything about it. It's you kind of have to be in there to see all the fantastic things there are to offer. So what are your thoughts on kind of attracting people with, in maybe a creative way?
I think, things like you just mentioned, like trade shows, there's a massive gap in everybody's calendar, isn't there? We really miss them, and they are great fun. The sponsorship with Mercedes is great. We've done product launches at Mercedes World, track days, things like that, which I would never normally choose to do, if I'm honest. But it was great. Loved it.
I'll take your place.
But I think another quite important thing that I think the younger generation are building knowledge of and they value quite highly is the environment and sustainability. And what inkjet technology is doing for sustainability, I think that's really important and something that should be driven home a lot more. And I think that's key to getting people interested in print. Also, I know John mentioned earlier, people were saying about the death of print and, it's going to come to an end. We work with loads of photography ambassadors, so well-known photographers in the UK, who talk about the value of a photo not being a photo until it's actually physically printed. And I think that's really important. You look at it on a screen, it's not the same. It's that print that finishes it and makes it a proper picture. And also we work with loads of really well-known photographers. I don't know if you've ever heard of Danny Clifford. So he's a well-known rock photographer. So if you're into your music, have a look at his website, read about his stories. His stories are absolutely incredible. I think the landing page on his website is a photo of him taken by Bob Dylan. It's brilliant. So little things like that you get into, and you think print, or people think of print, they think of a photocopier or a little A4 desktop, inkjet. There's so much more to it.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point that, two things there. There's that, appealing to people by, it is an emotional, evocative medium. Holding something in your hands, you can kind of use something like luxury packaging that everyone can relate to, everyone knows about packaging, and kind of interesting someone that way by saying, this is this process, and people can kind of relate to that a bit. And also that, that issue of the younger people caring about the environment, I think that's something so much more prevalent now, is people want to work in an environment that, fits their ethos and kind of correlates with their values. Whereas a few years ago, workplaces didn't care about that. This is your job and this is how we do things here, and now I think businesses need to evolve a bit to, accommodate younger people's, what they want out of a job and a career. Izzy, what are your, you work in recruitment, what are your kind of thoughts on that? Do you think things kind of changing in that way where people want to work somewhere that aligns with their values and interests?
Yeah, I do think so. And I think the environment is, it's a massive conversation right now. And I do think younger people, the younger generation is becoming more and more preoccupied and involved into this subject. So I think, that's a massive, point. For me, it was also when I first started in the industry, you mentioned something earlier, Karis, that, younger people, when they do finish university or school, they want to work with the giants such as Apple, for example. I do think that this industry gives you that opportunity to work with big names and big brands and international brands, to work on such exciting projects. You've got events, you've got retail, you've got luxury brands that you can work with. Without knowing, you are exposed to this industry every time you leave the house. Everywhere you go to a pub, you go to a restaurant, you go to a shop, you pick up your post from your post box, all is related to the print, the signage, the graphics industry, especially now when you go to shops, you've got, the social distancing signage, protective screens everywhere, PPE. A lot of the PPE is produced by this industry who's, been so quick at adapting and changing ways and, finding a new way to service, to service everyone, really. So I think in your work, you can't actually work with such exciting brands. And like you said, you get the travel, but you also get to add, big international names on your CV in your portfolio, and that can, your career can go, so much further from that. So it is, for me personally, it is exciting when I see that a client is working on a massive project for a well-known brand. And for example, I'll go to their factory and I see that they're producing these stands or they're producing the graphics. And then I see these I see them on TV. It can be a TV show, it can be an event, it can be in a shop. So for me, personally, that I think that is exciting when I see stuff like that. And I think, for a lot of younger people, it would be exciting because they will have the opportunity to work with big brands and, know a lot of the things that probably other people wouldn't know. Christmas campaigns, for example, are usually people work on in, summertime. Yeah. So that's quite funny, isn't it? Because you get to see what the trends will be, and what Christmas will bring and such.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a huge job to do this, though. To get young people. It needs to be first the awareness issue, then the steps we can take to get people involved, and I think it's been. This is a great conversation to show different aspects, and the whole of this Young Guns Day has been. I did want to. I'm conscious we are running out of time, which has gone really, really quickly. I don't know about anyone else, but I one of the things I wanted to go into was COVID, but I don't think we'll have time to tackle that big topic. But I just want to reiterate briefly that it's going to be a huge challenge, and just to remember that people at the start of their careers, or people looking for work, are going to be massively affected by COVID. Tom, like you, I was just stepping out into kind of the world of work when the recession hit in 2008 times, and I just really feel for the young people today who are starting out at the beginning of their careers. So I just an urge there for everybody listening to keep that in mind. But I would like to finish off this panel with a question that I've actually used to finish off all the other panels I've done, which is just you guys giving a piece of advice. It doesn't have to be long, but I'm going to put you on the spot and ask for you to give a little, nugget of wisdom that you may have learned during your careers for young people kind of starting out in the industry. Who can I put on the spot first? Jonathan, I'm going to put you on the spot first because I know you've got some lots of.
No problem. Now, my piece of advice to anyone starting, whether they're young and starting their career or looking for their next career, is, be kind, be gracious, be inquisitive. And, I've really taken something that Pat, my mother, has told me my whole life, which is don't believe your own press. And I'm stealing that from her because, we've got to all be better. We've all got to want to continuously improve. And we find that when we get into ruts in our careers that we lose that graciousness sometimes. And when things are hard, like economies, you got to step back and remember that everybody's going through something. Everybody's got stuff going on. So try to be gracious, try to be inquisitive, try to be knowledgeable, and try to be your best self. And I really think even when that's hard, even when times are hard, I think it pays dividends when people look back on what you've done. And when you need a helping hand, I think they reach out when you treat people as you want to be treated. So that's my biggest advice is don't let the times get you down and, aspire to do everything you want to. It's not easy, but I think everybody on this panel has probably climbed and clawed their way to things that they're trying to do. And I look back at what I've done and I wouldn't change a minute of it.
Yeah. Fantastic advice there. I knew it would be. And Jan, I'm gonna pick on you next. Like, I think you might be, I'm not 100% sure, but might be the youngest of the young guns here today on this panel. You're really, really early on in your career, and you're the editor of 2 publications. It's an amazing achievement. So what kind of advice can you give to the young folks today?
You have to stop complimenting me. I really suck at taking compliments. I think, I probably am the youngest, but I would say, particularly now, because obviously we probably are going to we are in another recession, whether it's like a slightly weird one where it like hits differently. But the one thing that was given to me, and I know we mentioned this earlier about using your initiative, being inquisitive. It sucks because you probably won't get paid, but ask for work experience. Work experience is invaluable. I'm probably like 60 grand in debt for my 2 degrees, but do you know what I mean? I wouldn't be anywhere if I didn't go and do that work experience with a magazine or a newspaper. So even if you emailed loads of people, I got told no loads because some people just don't have the time, but out of all the people that I emailed, 2 people got back to me, and I spent 5 days at both of them, and that experience was invaluable. So even if you just emailed someone and you got 1 day out of it, a couple of hours out of it where you shadowed someone, whether that be in engineering or journalism or anything, but it's like we said earlier, if you don't ask, you don't get. So it's like having that boldness to speak. What have I got to lose? They don't know me. They'll just say no, or they'll say yes. And if they say yes, you don't know what it's going to lead to. So you'll never know if you don't try. I hate to be cliche, but it's true.
No, it is true. And it's such good advice. It's, try a bit of everything, try what you can, go out there and experience things. And, it's great life experience as well as work experience, go and do things a bit different. So yeah, I think that's great advice. What about you, Tom? Have you got some words of wisdom for us?
Similar, it might sound a bit cliched, but yeah, make the most of every opportunity and don't stop learning. So if I look back, some of the things I did when I was temping, like I can remember just thinking, this is rubbish. Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
You got to earn some money. And even when I look back now, I learned something in every role I was in, no matter how depressing it was. Even retail and warehouse work when I was a student, understood about supply chain and customer service. So when I did go into sales admin and sales, I already had a grounding. So even if it's something you're doing just as a stopgap, learn absolutely everything you can. Keep pushing yourself. I've been in large format industry for nearly 8 years, and literally every day is a school day. Still learning every day.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's fantastic. And I think, COVID is going to be difficult for younger people, but I do think a positive thing is, events like this where, the people that go to the trade shows normally aren't the people at the beginning of their careers. So they don't have access to that learning opportunity all the time. And this really democratizes that and gives everyone the opportunity to take advantage of this content, which is why all the webinars and this event, please take advantage of everything you can. More than 55% of the attendees of the first summit in June were 18 to 35. And that's what actually, we were really surprised by that. And that's what led to the creation of this content program today, the Young Guns in Print Day, to kind of celebrate young people in the industry. So do take advantage of free online events, while this is going. You could, even if it's a different industry or, you want to learn a bit of something else, just really take advantage of that. So great advice. Yeah, keep learning all the time. What about you, Izzy? Last but not least, some advice from you for young people?
Yeah, I think for me, what I've personally learned from this industry, and what maybe I wish someone would have told me 5 years ago, maybe, is you mentioned earlier, Karis, that this industry is a community and people should reach out more. And I think it definitely is a community. It's a very close-knit industry. So don't be afraid to knock on doors and speak to people, because you'll just make so many connections. You'll have these connections for life, and people are so helpful. I've noticed even on LinkedIn, when anyone needs any support, people are so willing to help as well. And I think what I would say also is quite related to what Tom said. What is very important right now, as we see with COVID and everything that has been going on, just adapt as quick as possible. I think the industry had to learn to adapt in the past few months. And change is inevitable at the minute. So learn to adapt, understand that change does happen, and just move with the times. And don't be afraid to knock on those doors and speak to as many people as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Such great advice from everyone. I really wish we had more time to delve into this a bit further. But as we've all said, reach out if you have any other questions. I'm sure everyone here would be more than happy with that. And yeah, just thank you all so much for being a part of this. I really think there's some really interesting ideas and insights there. And please, for everyone watching, thank you for watching. Please do keep watching. There's 4 more days of incredible content across so many different topics and sectors, and with a huge amount of incredible speakers. So thank you for joining us for Young Guns in Print, and thank you again to all of you for being a part of it.